Hello, everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting for the Village of Lytton on March 10th. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone to please turn off your videos, mute your microphones, and allow council to begin the proceedings. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and broadcasted on the Village YouTube channel. If you wish to view this meeting or access a video recording of a past meeting, you can visit the Village YouTube channel and watch it there. Thank you, Your Worship. You may call the meeting to order.
Thank you. I call this regular council meeting of Tuesday, March 10th to order at 7:01. I want to begin by acknowledging that the Village of Lytton is located on the unceded traditional ancestral territory of the Endlakattan people, and this land has been their gathering place since time immemorial. All right, so we'll move to adopt the agenda, but I do have one amendment I'd like to put forward, and that would be to move item number 11 to between 7 and 8.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So can I have a seconder to move? Seconded, Councillor Toss. And all those in favor?
Sorry, Councillor Toss and who? Sorry, who moved in second?
I moved.
Okay.
Councillor Toss second.
Thank you.
Carried. Good. Okay, so now we move on to.
In favor?
I did.
She did that.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
you
I
missed
actually
it.
I missed that. May I speak to the agenda? I am actually voting against adopting the agenda as is. Lisa, is that
Okay,
okay?
so I'll call the question again. So all those in favor? Opposed
Well, isn't there discussion before we hold a vote?
with adoption of the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay,
So I'm going to be speaking against the adoption of the agenda as, although I appreciate the amendment, bringing my notice of motion forward before the actual vote on the municipal office. So I'm going to actually stand up because I did a little bit of preparation for today. So I rise at the outset of this meeting to request that the agenda be amended. I'm asking that discussion and any votes on the proposed village office RFP for $4.5 million, my notice of motion regarding the size.
just a second. Are you now amending the motion further or amending the agenda?
I'm requesting an amendment to the agenda.
Okay, so do you have the amendment? What is the amendment?
That these three items, notice of motion, this, may I finish reading it?
So is reading it, finishing your amendments, or is it discussion around?
It's
why?
discussion around the agenda, if that's all right. So if you'll allow me to continue, I would like to defer these three votes. I would like to have council discuss that or put it forward at least, and I'm quite happy to be voted down should the rest of council not concur. But I'm asking that discussion and any votes on the proposed village of office RFP and my notice of motion regarding the size and scope of the village office, as well as the transition plan, be deferred for a future meeting. Instead, I propose a motion to defer these items until a taxpayer consultation has been conducted and council has sufficient information to make an informed
Corporate officer?
I was just going to say, so we do have that, we just have to have a motion to amend the agenda to do those things. So the notice of motion for the transition plan and your notice of motion to be deferred?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. So then we need to vote on that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so
So
we
I
have a
propose
motion.
to defer these items until a taxpayer consultation has been conducted and council has sufficient information to make an informed decision. This consultation.
Just a sec. So you're making an amendment to what, just like when
I'm
I,
making a motion, yeah, to amend.
so when I amended to have the item number
I'll make a
11
motion.
moved, I don't explain why, I just make the amendment. So your amendment is to remove two items or remove
May I
three
speak
items?
to the agenda before making that motion so that my information can be put on the table?
I'm just thinking about the amendment, because right now we have a motion to adopt or.
I believe it's the chair's prerogative to entertain this. So it's up to you actually to hear me out.
Yeah, so we have an
I'm not
motion
actually,
to amend the agenda is the motion, but.
I haven't actually read the. So what you're suggesting is that I read the motion, we vote on whether we're going, like we vote on it, like we'll put the motion forward, someone seconds it, then I can speak to
But
it.
we still have an open motion on the table.
So you need a motion to defer your notice of motion. Actually, you know what? Shannon has just made a note. She can speak to it probably and articulate it a bit better. So I'll ask her to unmute herself
Sure, she's.
so she can speak to that.
Good evening, council. Just from a point of procedure. So It sounds like Councillor Toss is putting forward a motion to defer, which is one of the ruling motions. So everything else stops when you put forward a motion to defer. It's not linked to the agenda, like as in it's not the same motion as amending the agenda. It's a motion to defer. So everything stops and Councillor Toss would need a second to that motion or the motion dies. Just a heads up. Am I making sense? So motion to defer is one of the principal motions that trumps everything else. All discussion stops and everything else. And you would need a second to continue with a motion to defer.
And thank you, Shannon. At that point, would I be able to speak to it?
If you get a seconder, yes.
Okay, let's proceed on that.
Okay, so that you're deferring.
I would like to put a motion forward to defer the decisions on the Village of Lytton office, my notice of motion regarding the size and scope of the village office, as well as the transition plan.
So you're looking at item 1.81.1.
And this wouldn't necessarily be adopted. If there was a seconder, it would allow me to put my points forward.
11.
And then you could all vote it down if you so choose.
Councillor Toss, could I just ask one question because it matters from a procedural point of view? Are you asking for this motion to be deferred indefinitely or motion to be deferred to a specific date?
I considered making it to the April 24th meeting. I was advised from a municipal expert that may not give staff enough time to have community consultation and a municipal independent oversight. So I'm leaving it open to staff to be the earliest possible convenience.
Okay,
So
just
as I read through my rationale, there's 2 or 3 items I'd like to see addressed prior to these items going forward.
So do those
Okay.
come?
just again to outline Robert's Rule of Orders, if it's a motion to defer indefinitely, i.e. you don't give a specific date, you cannot
table.
amend the motion. If it is for a specific date, you can amend the motion. So just a heads up. There's a bit of a
Okay,
difference.
then I would like to make it for April 24th, being that I suspect there may be amendments if it is entertained.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so that
Is
motion.
the motion's on the
amended
table?
motion's on the table. So is there a second? For a second time, is there a seconder? Seeing none, we then go back to the motion, which was to amend the agenda to move item number 11 to in between 7 and 8.
Thank you.
So we have a seconder for that. I believe Councillor Toss had seconded that. So all those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Toss and carried. All right, we will move on to delegations and presentations. We have none.
In a minute.
And, oh, sorry, thank you. Adoption of minutes. So we have the minutes of the February 24th meeting. Over, please.
Make the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Michelle. Seconder.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any errors or omissions? No. It's in favor. Great. All right. So now moving on right down to public comment, and I'll turn it back over to Corporate Officer Storchenko.
Thank you, Mayor Connor. So just one moment, I've totally lost my script. So now we invite members of the public to provide comments on items related to tonight's agenda. So if you'd like to speak, please use the raise hand function featured on Zoom. You can find this by clicking on React at the bottom of your screen and then select raise hand. When it's your turn, I'll read your name and ask you to unmute yourself. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Speakers are asked to please state and spell your name, provide your address, and indicate the agenda item number you are speaking to. If anyone would like to speak online, please use the raise hand function now. And I'm going to call for a second time online. If anyone would like to speak, please use the raise hand function now. And your worship, I believe there are a few people here in the hall that wishes to speak. I'll call on whoever would like to come up first.
Anyone like to speak?
It's not fun. Well, good evening, council. I guess we've had 3.5 years of.
Can you state your name?
Please state and spell.
179 on the rows
Okay, thank you.
and have 256. Yeah, I'm here to talk to item 9.2. I have a number of people concerned that about what was written in the letter. And I have started a petition to figure out how many people are in support of that letter. And as
So may I interrupt? Sorry, Mr. Alderman, can you please come a little bit closer? Because the mic is over here and people online can't hear you.
Here, Jen. Like stand.
yeah. Give it me.
Sir, sorry if you didn't.
Back here.
It's like old time.
And so I said the most effective way to put your viewpoint across is to do a petition and then you go from there. And so I brought a petition in for your so you can see what it is. Right, so it's no surprise in that, and I will be delivering it at the next council meeting. Not to this one, but of course you have to be a week ahead of time, so. But that's that, just so far about 20%, I've only visited 20% of the residents and I have 100% of the people signing, so I must be a good salesman.
What is this?
Well, I did.
It's finally coming to us.
It will be coming to you. I gave a copy to the to the village office. It's basically that I would like to see, you're doing about 5 projects. And what I'd like to see is the operational plan, how it's going to be funded. Because I have done a little study on how many houses here in town, and there's 60, at which there are 6 empty, right? And then we have RCP houses that are not allowed to express themselves, and then we have the Mats that considered a residence or not. If the Mats is considered a resident, it's 61. Just for your own information, I actually went and counted it, and we have 1 resident, and I'm not sure if we can consider it a residence. But there they are living on the property. Okay, and so, and as of now, I'm just having 1 person in each household, the person that comes to the door sign. So that's just for heads up.
What are they signing for?
Well, if they're signing for an asset management plan for all the projects that you guys are doing, and basically it's the projected operating costs, the maintenance costs, life cycle replacement costs, the long-term funding strategies associated with them. I read, for instance, that the pool got contributions, and I don't know, for most of my years in there, they didn't get much in the way of contributions. So just saying, like, that. And in that these how to say that these cost projections just be available to the public. There's nothing. I'm not trying to give you any gotcha questions or anything like that. And so that's basically it. Okay.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak? If you want to come on up, sure. And if you can state your name, spell your name and your address, please.
SHIRLEY 162 West Lane, Lytton, BC. It's a little bit on the tail of Dan's question, but how do we ever get this far into these projects without having the operation and maintenance. Like I did a brief little bit of math and we're way in over our heads. We'll never be able to afford to keep these buildings. And I'm just wondering, how did you get this far without somebody saying to you, where's the operation plan? That's what my question is. And also, if the taxes go up too far, we're gonna lose a few of our residents because they can't afford to live here. But I wondered if we could get an answer to that. How did it come to this point?
Not at this. This is an opportunity for you to speak to us for 2 minutes.
Well, I'm asking a question. I'm just wondering how long would I have to wait for the answer?
Yeah, we don't get into discussion right now, but we'll take away everything that you tried.
Oh, okay. So it's not a matter of the public asking me something to get an answer. It's just me to come here to say, I'm very concerned about these buildings you plan to build. There's nobody to pay for the operation or maintenance, no foreseeable future expansion of Lytton. And I feel we should quit now before any of them go in and go incorporated. And that's my opinion. And that's what I'd like to see. Because I don't know, the money's going to run out, all the fancy help is going to be gone, and we'll just be a hamlet in BC. That's all, we'll be just a small hamlet. So we should be thinking more hamlet way than big city. And where are those people coming from to support all these projects? Okay, that's what I'm going to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right.
I'll call for a last time. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak in Parish Hall? All right. Thank you. So that concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. Back to you, Your Worship.
Okay, so as we amended the agenda, we're going to move on to item number 11. Sorry, 11, yes, which was the notice of motions that council put forward at the last council meeting.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. So we're speaking now to the notice of motion. Would you like me to read it out one more time?
I think everybody has it in front of them, I think, so.
I think it might be nice for people that are tuning in because sometimes they don't actually have the paper in front of them. So I'm asking that the municipal office design, in addition to like our community's concerns about the operations and maintenance costs, I've been thinking a lot about the hub. Of course, I was.
So 11.1 is the annual summary.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay.
11.1 is your motion, notice of motion regarding the preparing a report.
Oh, so that's the
Summarizing.
end of the,
Yeah, we're on 11.1.
and so 11.2 is still remaining at the end of
Well,
the.
we'll do that one next because we moved
Okay, now I
all of
understand. Okay,
items.
so we're right. Okay, so this notice of motion is around having a report summarizing the number of motions introduced in 2025.
How about put the motion forward? We'll get a seconder and then we'll discuss.
The motion is that council direct staff to prepare a report for council's consideration summarizing the total number of motions introduced in 2025 and identifying those that remain outstanding, and that staff include a similar annual summary in each year's annual report.
Just going to ask for if we could, the microphone picks up the noise. Thank you. Sorry. And seconder, please. That motion.
All right, then I'll start to speak to the next motion.
And we'll move on to item number 11.2.
Okay.
Okay.
So this motion is regarded to the municipal office design. I'll read the motion. Whereas the proposed two-story municipal offices far exceed both present and future anticipated administrative needs of the village of Lytton, and whereas the operating costs of the proposed two-story building, lighting, heating, janitorial, insurance, elevator, etc., will increase the pressure on the village's limited tax base and annual operating budgets. And whereas there are no potential identifiable tenants for the retail spaces, tenancy is speculative and revenue should not be considered in a future operational budget. And whereas the reduced cost of construction will allow the village of Lytton to set aside discretionary funds, which can then apply to future infrastructure and administrative requirements. And whereas additional architectural costs for changes will be more than offset by the reduced construction and future operational costs. Therefore, be it resolved that council directs staff To request from the architect a revised building design which will meet the appropriate administrative and operational needs of the Village of Lytton based on the second-story design of the current plan.
And I'll ask for a seconder for that motion. Right then.
I guess I don't get to speak.
We will move on then to item number 8, which is staff reports and presentations. And we have CAO Marquette on the line regarding the Village of Lytton staffing transition plan, which we requested her to bring back. By the
Yes,
end of, yes.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. It's actually a little bit later than what you requested. I think initially council had requested it by the end of January. But here we are on March the 10th. So this plan was pursuant to the request of council that included just kind of talking about how we're going to transition from the large staff group that we have now based on the recovery funding and other contributions that have come into the village back to kind of a more typical municipal structure. And, as you know, we've had, certainly since I've been here, so approximately 3 years, we've had more staff roles than we typically would. And we've had a variety of kind of employees like on payroll and contracted staff. So there's been a mixture of the two. And in most cases, a lot of those staff work on both day-to-day municipal operations and recovery or capital projects. So they kind of move back and forth wherever the skills are needed at any given time. This plan contemplates sort of separating the two, establishing, late in 2026, kind of a typical municipal staffing structure, and then having a separate group of people who would be working on an as-needed basis based on the various capital projects and remaining recovery works to be done. One of the kind of the principles in the plan is that, we would intend to honor existing contracts. Of course, at any time, council could look at a particular position and the contract associated with it and determine whether or not they wanted to continue with that and, what that would mean. But this plan contemplates, for example, there's a number of staff on employee contracts. It doesn't anticipate breaking those contracts, for example. Really, the sort of the most important kind of part of this plan, I believe at this time, is to sort of transition into that permanent CAO to live in the village and to, run the organization on a go forward basis. A lot of the other parts are going to move and change over the next 9 months. Some people will leave, other people may come and go, and some of that is a little bit up in the air. But I think we've established that we do need to have that leadership position in the village and, for an ongoing basis. So the plan recommends that happening in sort of a 2-step process. First would be to hire what I would call a deputy CAO. And that would be a person who, had the skills and qualifications to be the CAO, but of course doesn't have any of the background on Lytton or of any of the things we've been tackling over the last 5 years. And so that person would come in and work with me for a period of time while I would do some knowledge transfer and help them understand, kind of the environment that we're in. And then when they were sort of up to speed, then they would take over the, sort of the village staff and the typical municipal functions like public works and finance and taxes and those types of things. And then I would continue to work with the group on the large capital projects and the grant funding and those types of things. We would separate off into two specific teams. Lisa, I did send you a couple of slides, but it was really late. So I don't know if you have them, if you're able to pull them up.
Sure. Yep. Just one moment.
If you don't, it's okay, because I was late getting them
Yep.
to you.
Nope. I should be with you in a second.
Point of procedure. Yes. Is it appropriate to have our CAO discussing her position in an open meeting for approval, or is that not something she should recuse herself for?
She's doing a deputy corporate officer position.
I speak to that.
Yeah.
I don't think we're approving any contracts. We're just approving
I believe
the
CAO
plan.
Marquette just spoke to her continuing on post 2027.
But it's the general plan that we would be approving.
Continue. Just get here, hold on a second.
Right on, just one moment.
There we go. Almost.
Or is this the one you're looking for?
Yeah, so this just sort of shows the two separate areas. So this would be kind of the typical municipal function. And like I said, there's most of these people are under contract now. There's a couple of vacant positions that we're working through, primarily the wastewater operator. And that, well, as that kind of works its way through, there might be some changes to this, but these would be the positions that would be reporting to the CAO on a regular basis. When I did some research with some of the surrounding communities, the CAO has a number of different responsibilities. Typically, they are often the corporate officer as well. They're often in charge of emergency management. Some of them look after parks and recreation. Sometimes that's under public works. It just sort of depends on the individual community and on the skill sets of the people that are involved. And then if you look at the next slide, please. And then these would be the positions that would be kind of remaining, that would be grant funded or related to remaining recovery works. And so, these would ebb and flow with the workload depending on what was happening at any given time. But it's sort of broken up between kind of the construction projects, the building construction projects, and the water and sewer construction projects. So both of those require people to coordinate, contract, account for, and then be on the ground to manage and monitor. So this would separate out that separate organization. This whole group would report to the CAO, and then of course up to council that way. So just to demonstrate how they're kind of two distinct teams in the future. You can stop sharing, Lise. And so the 2026 budget includes still some of the recovery positions, so it's still not 100% clean because those functions are gonna remain through this year. And I've estimated what I believe will be remaining in terms of recovery funding. And at the end of 2026, there will still be some money available for things like there may be a need to have still some development expertise on staff because people will still be rebuilding and will still be requiring assistance. There's still going to be some of the economic development initiatives underway. There's still going to be a need for some communications support. So, those positions would, there would continue to be some funding available to have those positions if council needed that support in the future. So that's all I was going to say about it, unless somebody had some questions.
Well, there is a recommended motion to adopt this plan. So let's move that forward and then we can discuss.
So moved, Lightfoot.
Thank you. A seconder,
I'll second.
Councillor McCann. So comments, questions, thoughts, Councillor Lightfoot.
I think it lays out quite clearly the separation that's required and gives a good idea on how we can move it ahead. I'd like the overview and your interaction with the other CEOs from different municipalities gives it a taste of reality that we may not really like, but it is what we have to deal with. And I see that one of your points is that it may be hard to attract a CAO. And that was my experience when I was on council previously. I think it's a good overview though. So thank you for that.
Okay, other questions, comments, Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Sue. Okay. I immediately start looking for the actual numbers. So we have the numbers that you included in your report, and the dollars are the amount of money that was initially assigned for each of these, not what's left. Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly?
On page 1 in the introduction, that's the
Yeah.
amount of the grants that is left.
Left, that is
An
the amount
estimate.
that's left.
An estimate.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So what would really help me is when we look at the proposed plans as they're laid out,
Yeah.
you've got position, funding source, and then maybe an estimated cost would be really helpful for the duration. Like, we're saying this corporate officer would be here for whatever time. So say how long we're estimating that. Is this forever now? Or is this for a limited amount of time? So to me,
Right.
that would really help going forward as we, even if this is the plan we follow, that kind of information makes it way easier to follow the plan and to make changes if necessary. You can kind of see right away if it's going to cost way too much for X, Y, or Z, then okay, maybe we better look at that and decide if it has to be changed somehow. So
Right.
that was one thing that kind of jumped out at me when I was looking at this. It would be really helpful to know the duration and the cost, the estimated cost. I know you can't say exactly what it would cost, but
Yeah.
somewhere in a ballpark just to help see the numbers that we're looking at. And as people are continuing to say to us,
Mhm.
they want to know how much it's going to cost all the time, everything, forever. So
Yeah.
if we can do it, then let's make every effort to do that in whatever it is we're planning to do moving forward. That would be my, otherwise I like the breakdown. When you refer in the report to the mentoring process,
Mhm.
that would be, to me, I was trying to picture that. And, yeah, I don't envy you that task, to be honest. I was thinking, how the heck would you do that though? So, but good luck on that. So, but I think the more transparent we can be, the more support we'll have for anything like this going forward. And
Right.
so it'd be, just being honest and upfront will help. Something like this, and this I do know, and this I don't know.
Right.
And that way we'll be able to support more likely, I think.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Councillor Toss.
Yeah, I'm speaking against accepting this transition plan without some sort of objective oversight. I'd really like to see somebody with municipal experience look at our transition plan, our finances, our organizational structure that's not currently part of our up to $100,000 a month recovery staff that have a conflict of interest to put these projects and transition plan forward. I think that if we are going to put this transition plan forward, I think that we have to put a provision in there that all new positions and renewals of contracts will go out to people that live or will work in the village of Lytton and certainly in our time zone for project manager and CAO. I'm a little bit disappointed, but I appreciate that CEO Mombercat mentioned that the org chart reports to council, because previous iterations and the actual org chart there forgets to acknowledge that taxpayers and voters are actually at the top of the org chart, then mayor and council, and then our CAO. I feel that a bid right now to put out for tender for a CAO is a good way to go, because as we all agree that it's potentially difficult to find that skill set, but without putting out that first step, we're never going to get there. And we should go a little bit of a fishing expedition to see what kind of talent is out there. I disagree with Councillor McCann in that this mentoring position would be a difficult thing. I believe that there are plenty of individuals in British Columbia with the skill set that we require for our CAO. The question is paying for it. I do not agree that $125,000 is going to get the CAO with the skill set that we require for the next 5 years through this transition. I also would hope that when we do put out the tender and look for a CAO that will transition to perhaps a full-time CAO, that the mayor and council make that decision, not our current CAO, because that is our role to hire
And that's,
CAO.
and that's how it works. You're right.
Okay, and I'm really looking forward to that process internally, not external, like with mayor and council initiating it. I find that current recovery staffing arrangements are financially significant and logically insufficient. Many staff, including our communications director, live outside the village, and despite local staff being capable of performing these duties, operational functions such as consolidating news, handling correspondence.
So
taking
we're not
photos,
talking about
managing the website and newsletter
Councillor
can and
Toss.
should be
Councillor Toss.
performed by village staff.
So on this transition
This is the
plan,
reason I am not voting in favor of
so
the
on this transition
I
plan,
have one
there's
sentence.
communications is not even listed as one of.
It
the
actually
positions.
was in the package that I received. Returning operational responsibility to local personnel strengthens the village and ensures continuity beyond the recovery period. That has not been addressed in this operations plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Michelle, do you have any comments regarding this transition plan?
No.
Okay. Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm trying to recall the Mark Carney comment that I really enjoyed so much, is that this isn't the reality we necessarily want, but it's the reality we live in. I think we've done an amazing job in the last few years, and the staff has contributed greatly to it. I think at many instances we've tried to hire locally and haven't found interested or skilled people that want to enlist or become part of the team. So as much as I believe that that's a good objective to aim for, I think that sometimes we have to look outside of our immediate area to get the skill set that we need. Mentoring is going to be key because there's a lot of contacts that have been made over the last few years, a lot of background that needs to be understood. So again, I just think it's a good plan, and day to day, the world's changing, the community's changing. It's really hard to say this is what we do. These are good objectives, and I think it's a really good start. Advertising for someone's going to be hard for sure. And we'll see, but I don't think we can afford much more than 125 or 150,000 a year. I mean, we're going back to finances again. We can't have one person that's the lead making and 5 people underneath. It's our organization is small. As one of our citizens said, we're a small community and we have to be very frugal and conscientious of our costs.
Here, here.
The chart that you provided on page 1 showing the remainder amounts, so much of that will be spent this from now till the end of 2026. I guess I would be curious to know what you would anticipate remaining. And I think, if I understand correctly, that it's not going to end at the end of 2026. Some of this money, if there's any remaining, will be able to carry on.
That's correct, Mayor O'Connor. That is my estimate for the end of 2026, those numbers. And I have confirmed with my colleagues at Municipal Affairs and at EMCR that they have no intentions of clawing back any of the funding that we've received. They will be interested to see what we plan to spend it on beyond, but there's no reason to believe that, expenditures consistent with what we've been doing wouldn't be similarly approved in the future.
Right, good. And then the chart where you list the core operations, I mean, a number of those are union positions that, they're set. And then the other positions here are really covered by the grants that were received, whether it's GICB, water, sewer. I'd hate to see any change in those just because the work that they're doing, the continuity of the projects, I think is so critical.
Yeah. And most of those positions are in place now, as I said in the report. The only ones that we don't have is a project coordinator on the construction side, on the building construction, and a part-time accounting clerk. Those are the only ones that are currently not filled.
And I mean, I agree with Councillor Tots in lots of ways. If we could fill these with local people, I would be over the moon. But to have that expertise, I think, we have to take what we get. And as I said, the continuity, if it means renewing contracts, yeah. Any other comments regarding this plan?
Just that I'd like to see a CAO position was posted as soon as possible. Perhaps I'll put that forward for the next agenda next in 2 weeks.
All right, good.
Hopefully it'll be seconded.
Okay, so as far as this plan goes, all those in favor?
Mhm.
Opposed? Councillor Toss, and carried. Okay. Now we'll move on to item number the village office contract award. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. This is the culmination of months of work that that mostly council did with the architect, and then the architect prepared the drawings for tender. As I indicated in the report, the tender was put out in the middle of January and closed on February the 27th. We had 10 responses to that, and there was preset criteria relating to that contract. It was heavily weighted towards cost. They were very, they're very detailed construction drawings that are used in a tender scenario. So, contractors can bid exactly what it's gonna cost them to construct. So we put a large percentage towards the cost, 75%, and then we split the remaining 25% over. Just looking at the team that they proposed, the schedule that they proposed, and their safety focus as much as anything. A COR certification is a way just to assess their focus on safety. So when we scored the proponents, it was it was quite easy because the criteria were so specific, and we had the top proponent, A&R Construction, was both the lowest price and the highest number of points. And so at this time, we're recommending that they be awarded the construction contract. You can see in the report, I listed a number of the features that are included in the construction contract, just to remind everybody of some of the things that we've been talking about. So, the rooftop is designed to be solar panel ready. We've got forced air rooftop units, which will be ducted, but they're easy to be cleaned and for maintenance. We have a wood frame structure with interior and exterior vinyl windows, aluminum entrances, 2 retail spaces, each one of them with their own washroom, self-contained. And then in addition to that, we have some public washrooms, both accessible and non. We have some built-in, there is some built-in millwork for the front counter, the council chambers table, and some of the cupboards and whatnot that are for the staff kitchen. So I just wanted to list a bunch of those so people didn't have to think about what was in and what was out. That those items are all included in the bid.
Okay, so we do have a recommended motion, and that is to approve the selection and authorize the council authorize the funding to come out of insurance proceeds. So would someone like to put that motion forward?
I also move.
Councillor McCann, and a seconder, Councillor Lightfoot. All right, questions, discussion. Councillor Lightfoot.
I know at one time we were working with Pacifican to see if they would make a contribution towards this. So has anything been finalized, or are we still working with them?
We are still working on that. Nothing has been finalized yet, but we do believe we will be eligible for some funding through Pacifican for this.
That's good. Other thoughts, Councillor McCann?
Okay. I was looking at the amount and where it comes from. And then I got a little bit confused. Maybe you just clear it up for me. The funding for this comes out of the insurance proceeds. There is a contract award for that amount that's listed here, whatever the many, there we go, 4503.
Yes.
So is that a hard contract? Like, are they allowed to go over that?
No, that will be a fixed price contract. The only
Yeah.
expenses that we will incur in addition to that will be our own management of the contract. So our
Okay.
construction advisor and project coordinator, those costs would be in addition.
Right, and that, can you bill that from insurance or does that have to come from somewhere else?
No, it could come from the insurance as well.
There's enough extra.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was just wondering, how much extra was there out there? Because buildings never cost what they're supposed to cost.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
If we don't
thank
make
you.
any changes, that's what it will cost.
Yeah, every time you change your mind, you get another couple
Yeah.
$1,000. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm just wondering, I see that the insurance reserve balance was estimated at 4.410 at the end of 24. So
Yeah.
by the time we need it, you know, it will have made some more money, I'm assuming. Do you have any estimate of what that might be?
There'll be some more interest on it, but in addition to that, we still, we received a payment from the insurance of the cash value of all of our properties. And as we replace them, they give us the bump up to the replacement value. So right now we have yet to receive that additional bump up for the pool, the tourist center, the museum, the fire hall. So the additional money that we're expecting on those 4 properties is almost $2 million. So we've got 4.4 now. We're expecting another 2. We will spend some on the replacement of fire equipment and public works equipment that we've been, kind of working through, but that's only a couple $100,000 at the very most. So we should have plenty of money in the insurance reserve.
Thank you for that. And I do recall you trying to explain that at a different time. And thank you for re-explaining that. Other comments, questions? Councillor Toss.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. It's no surprise I'm going to be speaking against the going forward with this RFP before we have an operations and management plan. I've been running some of the numbers and granted, as has been pointed out to me, there was a point where I was a party to developing the 2-story building. However, that was before I realized we didn't have an operations and management plan and saw the scope of the hub, which will also require significant taxpayer support. So I'm speaking against it because we don't have an operations and management plan. I do not think it's fiscally responsible to be putting this RFP out without knowing how we were going to be paying for this. I did some math as well on the 2 retail spaces and the grand foyer on the ground floor. And just mathematically speaking, and I know that we've already defeated my motion, but the 4.5 million for this building, the operational savings of downsizing this building, could say, just for the sake of argument, we halved them and did the 1-story, we would be saving 2,250,000. That is now being applied to 2 retail spaces, a big foyer and basically a reception desk. I've counted on the 2nd floor 11 desks, which far exceeds our 4 or 5 maximum staff that would be in a regular operations. So that 2.25 million at $2,000 a month revenue for those 2 retail spaces on top of the cost to build them at 2.5 million. That floor is going to cost us about 3,700 square feet, about 37,000 just for the maintenance of that space. So you look at 2,000 a month in revenue, it would take 1,125 months.
Have to apologize to everybody that's online. This is the first technical difficulty of this kind. But we are back, and I'm going to ask Councillor Toss to continue.
Thank you very much. I'm actually not sure, CEO Mumbertet, do you remember the last things out of my mouth before you got cut off so I don't repeat myself too much?
I just heard you talking about the empty area and the 83 years or 93 years.
To pay off the 2.5 million with that rental income on the retail space? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So basically there's no rationale in my opinion for the 1st floor. So I won't be voting to put this forward because we don't have an operations plan. in addition to the hub, in addition to the fire hall, in addition to the public works building, I do not see how these numbers can possibly sustain this infrastructure. Elevator costs alone are 8,000 to, by all reports, I've looked at 7 municipalities. They run between 8,000 and 15,000 a year per elevator, but they actually have a life cycle reserve of 15 to 25,000 per year because they have a life cycle span, which means many asset management plans therefore allocate 4,000 to 10,000 a year in reserves. So we're looking, at 15 to 35,000 a year to operate this elevator without any maintenance. That's just the looking after the contract. That's not even the telephone in it. I haven't seen a contract for this RFP. I've been really disappointed in the past with our architecture RFP, with our contracts, which haven't allowed for provisions for change or this or that. So without having seen the contract for this, I'm really reluctant to vote in favor of anything going forward. The other thing about this building that's special, as opposed to the public works, as opposed to the fire hall or the village hub project, is that this is discretionary funding. It's coming from our insurance proceeds, which means they can be applied to sidewalks, to a future CAO that has the skill set that we require, that can be applied to contingencies in the future, hub shortfalls, because we're well on our way to building that. I think it would be prudent to really downsize this building. I think that's about all I have to say. There's 11 office spaces on the upper floor, which I think more than accommodates our current council. So I will not be voting in favor of this. I think it's a very fiscally irresponsible move.
Are there any other comments, Councillor Lightfoot?
I'm not sure I heard correctly because it was a bit confusing lately, but the fire department and the hub, the criteria for those developments was a grant that basically incorporated the extended community. So I'm just going to speak personally, not as a village councillor right now, but as a resident of electoral area I would hope that some of my tax dollars came in to support the pool and supported the recreation activities in the hub, because I will be using it for sure. And it's the same as the fire department. In the surrounding areas, it's not only the village of Lytton that needs to support that. And as I said, it was part of the criteria, thus the extensive public consultation that was given public opportunity over the last year to come and speak to it. The village office is different, but I think it would have been helpful to your cause. Yeah. If those numbers that you presented tonight had been shared earlier so that it could be analyzed and researched individually. I personally have heard people make statements about costs that I know are not correct. I'm not saying that you didn't do research and found it, but I need to do that research on my own. But there are costs right now. There are costs for the village right now. Renting the mill site, renting this parish hall. Those are all costs that are coming, that we're paying for as the village. And just to remind you, and I'm sure you realize this, that the visitor center is part of the is part of the main floor. And that is an asset that insurance proceeds are coming back to help us reestablish. So it's not just the village office, it's a visitor center. And I know in the past, the visitor center was somewhat pressed for space. I mean, there may be areas of accommodation where visitor center and village staff can maybe space each other off during lunch break or whatever. There couldn't be efficiencies, I think. And at this time in the village of Lytton, with no rental spaces for anyone that wants to set up a business, I don't believe that we'll have hardship finding renters. In the long run, I would be somewhat hesitant to have the village compete with other existing retail spaces, but there are no other retail spaces, and I don't see any appearing in the short term, maybe in the long term.
Councillor Not sure who had their hand up first. Councillor McCann.
Mrs. Toss already had her chance to speak anyway. I had a couple of things. First of all, I went and I did research whether or not it actually costs half as much to build one story as opposed to two. That is false information. It does not cost less to build one story. It costs almost, you can actually spend less for a two-story building as opposed to a single floor. Several different places that I researched said that, so I'm not making it up. The cost to maintain is dependent on the quality of the materials used in finishing the building and in the efficiencies of those materials. This will be the first public building finished in the village, and as such, it will be premium space, as you're saying. I agree with that, for rentals and office rentals. Likely, this will result in a competitive application process for the spaces, and having more than one will benefit the village through any rental income that they get. The original buildings in the village were often two-storied, and I'm guessing that was probably because there wasn't a lot of land here. So people are building two-story buildings. It's nothing strange and unusual to build a two-story building. It's efficient. I see no advantage to pausing the process. The village has started to build the village office on its original lot with a second floor at this time. I also believe that the building will prove its usefulness over time and that the cost to manage and care for the building will be within reach of the village without creating onerous tax burdens on residents going forward. That's my 5 cents. Thank you.
Councillor Michelle, do you have any hands?
No, my main thing was already answered about the Pacifican, whether we're going to be able to apply for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think the retail is going to be, I think it will be used.
Councillor Toss.
Thank you. I'd just like to respond to some of Councillor Lightfoot's concerns. I'll start with the retail space being used because Councillor Michelle also feels that. But I don't think that it's a matter of whether it'll be used or not. It's just whether we want to spend 2.5 million to provide 2 retail spaces and subsidize them at that rate. Yes, there's a visitor center slated. I don't believe the chamber has been involved with that, and that's been their initiative in the past. To date, there's been no discussion with the Chamber of Commerce on where the village office, or sorry, village center, information center will be located or how it will be managed. I think the fact that the numbers are not shared and that we don't have the numbers actually speaks to my concerns about not knowing about how much these buildings are going to cost. If you don't know the numbers and our CAO doesn't know the numbers and our community doesn't know the numbers, then I'm doing my best. Even though we have this is discretionary fund, there has not been consultation on the Village of Lytton office, but it is a taxpayers owned building. Despite the fact that we're not required to consult, it is best practice. The taxpayers will be paying for this. As for renting the mill site and the parish hall, I've been advocating since I came onto council for the village office to be back into the village, whether that be in the parish hall, the ATCO trailer, or whatnot. So renting the mill site's kind of a moot point to me. I think it should be in the village. And
are you almost finished?
do I have a time limit?
No, but we do have the motion regarding.
Yeah. So I will wrap that up, which I think that this is a very rash decision to be making when we haven't even looked at the contract for these people. I'm not pushing the second story or whatever, although I feel like that. I mean, we've already been voted that down. But I do think that deferring this until we have an operations plan is prudent and fiscally responsible. We're the only female council in British Columbia. Let's be fiscally responsible. Let's not have the communities pointing at us going, look at those dumb women.
So before I call the question, I'm going to say a few words as well. So regarding contract, like we hire a CIO to do all of that work. I don't believe that individual contracts necessarily come to council. They have a process for hiring based on the RFP that went out, and I don't think that's necessary. That's my opinion. As far as operating plan. I don't think anybody's denying that we need an operating plan. Operating plan needs to be developed. We can't say things like, I apologize, but your comment will require significant taxpayer support. That's an assumption. We don't know one way or the other. I don't appreciate being laughed at. Thank
But
you.
we do know that we don't have the tax base, Mayor O'Connor.
We do know we don't have the tax base.
We're not at our targets for housing.
I would like to go back to this
Certainly.
topic. Thank you. And so the operating plan, I don't think is a simple thing. We know that it's not a simple thing. I'm wondering, I've been thinking about this. I wonder if we look at how other municipalities are operating, because I think there's many models on how to operate, right? If we look at maybe other municipalities, how they are operating this is just a thought, their municipal buildings. And maybe I'm getting off track here as well. Back to the motion. But I'd like to think about that is, maybe there's a consultant or somebody to do some work. Maybe we could put it on our CAO. I don't know, to find out some different modeling plans. Because I think that is something we do need to address. Saying that, I don't want to hold up moving forward we've been waiting how many years to get things moving. And I definitely would support this. Councillor Lytton.
I just want, my numbers may be a bit off, but my recollection is historically, we paid when we had that small footprint, 2/3 of that block, 1 story, we were paying close to $2,000 a month to, and maybe a bit more, to TNRG. So that expense has been historical, $25,000 a year or whatever. Plus we paid the janitor, plus we paid the power and whatever. Plus we paid maintenance. We had it painted at one time or whatever.
So you're saying.
So historically, it's cost us at least $30,000 a year to have that small office space. So, if I'm looking what we paid for janitorial previously, I can't imagine $37,000. Having said that, the 2 rentals are responsible for their own maintenance. So it's not really double. It's not really half when you come to that cost, right?
So I'm going to call the question.
I think that's a good
We
idea.
could keep going forever, I think. So I'll call the question on this 2-part motion. All those in favor?
Yep.
And opposed? And that is carried. All right, we'll move on to item 8.2.1, which is Director of Development Services Activity Report. And I believe we have Carolyn. Oh, there she is.
Just starting my video. There we go. I'm up in the air. Good evening. I'm presenting the monthly activity report from the Development Services Department. But the inquiries are still steady, although we are still hopeful to get some building permit applications. I seem to be a bit of a broken record on that recently, but we have been in discussion with many of them. For as far as Chief Spitlam Park subdivision, I hope to get the road closure bylaw to you next week with the stat right-of-ways or the next council meeting. There was an issue with the property boundary to Highway 12, which I wanted to resolve it. It took a few more weeks, but I think it was important. Right now, there was some, from our survey's perspective, unclear where Fraser Road actually ended to the north and where Highway 12 started. So we're working on that. The official community plan and the community conversations, they have been very informative in the OCP update and good input and participation from many different people in the community. And just a reminder, tomorrow night is infrastructure and community facilities. Economic development, I'm proceeding, looking for the temporary space for those mobile businesses, including the Atco trailer that we were gifted some years ago. At the next meeting, I will be bringing forward the essential housing proposal call. And as you all talked about, top of my list is the Pacific Can application for the village offices. So, any questions?
Councillor Toss?
Thank you. I see the building permits issued and closed were 29, but many of those included like plumbing, gazebos, garage, retaining walls. How many building permits were final occupancy again that we've received since the rebuild? Like how many homes have been rebuilt?
If you scroll down, it actually tells you the type of application.
Yeah.
I suppose total closed is 29. On
Okay.
building permits issues and closed.
So you're just looking at SFDs, then single family dwellings for that number?
No, that's the chart on page 31 of 41.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Any
I'm not
other-
finding that, but-
You can see how they're itemized. Foundation, TELUS, SFD, plumbing.
Sorry, I'm still trying to find that.
Page 31.
Yeah, my news come, I'm in a Hotmail one, so it's like, or the pink one. So it's on page 31 and I'm looking at, sorry, issued and closed? No.
And then it identifies what type they are.
Okay, so it's just a matter of counting those up. So we're looking at like about 15 or so. Okay, that was my one question. I did want to just express my disappointment that the Atco trailer is being considered for economic opportunities. I was really surprised when I was speaking with you, Ms. Lamont, at one of the OCP meetings that you were working on pricing out a sink for that Atco trailer, as I've been really wanting to see our village staff return to the village and use that as an amenity. I was told we couldn't because it would cost $50,000 to put it on a foundation. I suggested cribbing, and my suggestion was ignored, I guess. But
So is the Atco trailer in the report
it
here?
is, yeah. So the Atco trailer, in my opinion, should be part of like for project manager, for village staff. And I think that it should be a decision of council how that Atco trailer is used. I don't remember it coming to council.
It will come next week or the next meeting.
So my concern is like the staff initiating these things rather than it coming from council. So we're acting like we're reacting rather than acting. So I think that what happens to the Atco trailer should be a decision of council, not something that comes here like we're going to be given a decision between a salon and a dog grooming company, where that is going to come to council as our vote when we don't necessarily, I don't know, we haven't had that discussion. So I'm a little concerned about that, I have to say. And then the other is around the temporary housing that we're waiting for those RFPs to return. And I guess there's a short list now. But when that was first put out, we kind of discussed it like we're going to just see what we're going to get. And at that time in our discussion, we were saying that there's no commitment to building these. It's just we're going to see if there are some viable options for some of these smaller lots. It sounds to me now in these discussions that we are proceeding without ever having seen these proposals. Like, and I thought there was a provision when we discussed this to not go ahead should none of these proposals be appropriate. And I'm also concerned that that 3.1 million of interim funding will be used up pretty darn quick for the upper level of the hub and to do all of these projects. I'm just wondering how far along we are without it kind of touching base with council again.
Did
That's
you
all my
want me to
comment.
respond to that?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
I think I said in my report that it's coming back to council, the essential housing.
Okay. I hope it's not a done deal. That's all I'm saying. Like we're now like whittling it down to 4 choices of what we're going to build rather than are we going to build, or are these even what we want to do, rather than giving us a choice of 3. Anyway, that's my take on it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Other comments, questions regarding Councillor Lightfoot?
Thanks for giving us an overview of what we've been up to, and carry on.
Thank you. It's nice to be appreciated.
Any others, Councillor McCann or?
I'll just say that I'm looking forward to hearing more about the process that you've followed. So you sent out this, you got this back, and kind of to Councillor Toss's question is, at some point in time, the council connects in, gives some kind of feedback or decision, and then it goes back out again to decide what happens next, is my understanding of the process we're talking about, particularly for the housing.
Yeah, and probably professionally as a fault, as you know, I like to follow policy and process, and
Yeah.
that absolutely will be part of your report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we do have a recommended motion to approve this or to receive this for information. Councillor Lightfoot, seconded. Councillor
second.
McCann, all those in favor? And that's carried. All right, we move on to Public Works. We have a contract award to True Consulting. And I believe, Daryl is here. There he is.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Daryl.
Well, you need to sit up here.
Oh, we can see you.
There we go. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. Oh, I'm just losing my earphone here. Yes, we have True Consulting has been working in the west of Main Street village sewer design primarily, and that work is now essentially complete for the design portion. We have tendered or issued an RFP for the construction portion. The next phase of the process is to get True Consulting to complete the construction services portion. So that's essentially monitoring and inspecting the work that's being put in. There's a few other components, and then if there's design changes or anything that come along, then they would be involved in that work. So we're looking to get council approval to award contract to True Engineering and to have CAO Monberquette sign the contract.
Okay, so we do have the motion here we could put forward.
I'll put forward that motion.
Thank you, Councillor McCann, seconded. Councillor Toss, questions, comments?
I can support this.
All right, so then I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Okay.
Carried. There you go, Daryl. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay. Now we'll move on to correspondence. We do have two items to tonight's agenda. The first one from John Sam regarding the May Day celebration. It looks like he doesn't specifically ask, but I did note on here that we always appreciate any type of cash donation. He does that so kindly. Also, so looking at putting the event for May Day some days in town. I know Councillor McCann, you've had some discussions with Dawn regarding this. So I don't see any issue with as long as the parish hall hasn't been booked, to having it available for them for the May long weekend. We did that last year, I believe, and having some of the events in town. And I would also be privy to providing a donation. I believe we've done that
Yeah, other organizations.
to other organizations. That's correct. So
I put a motion forward that we
Thank you.
put a motion forward that we put a donation forward of $500 for the May Days event.
okay, and a seconder for that.
I'll second it.
Okay, Councillor McCann. All those in favor? Great. So if we could have a letter sent with that, that would be great.
And the parish hall is already booked.
Is it? Oh, they've already booked it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm just curious how that I will assume, and maybe I shouldn't assume, that they're interacting with the car club and the events.
Yeah. Yeah. Interacting with the car club, interacting with Fraser Lions Church, and they've got the guys from Lillooet, the Sofa Kings, going to do the dance. So it'll be kind of back and forth. Like it was so bad last year with the wind that they just said, you know, we're going to use the battlefield. So the battlefield will be the Saturday, things will be there. And then Sunday, things will be here with the car show and stuff in the hall. And then Monday will be the parade and the soapbox derby, let's hope. That'll be in town.
Is there a theme yet?
Okay, I don't think so. All right, we'll move on to the second piece of, did we vote? All those in favor? I think we did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Because you asked for a letter to follow with that.
You asked, and now I'm questioning myself, right? We have a letter here from Judith and Ross Urquhart, a lengthy letter with some requests in it. Any suggestions from any council?
Make a motion to accept it, maybe we can discuss it. Or we do that.
I don't know that we need a motion to accept it, but we could motion to, see what.
May I discuss, and I just put something forward?
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I am just having read that and personally very much agree with what Judith and Ross have put forward. I'm wondering if there is a plan to provide an operations and management budget for any of these municipal buildings and when we could expect that. And it would be part of a 5-year or 10-year plan, I would hope. And I'm wondering what the status of that is, or was the appetite for that? I've requested it, and I know that the several community members are concerned about it. So where are we going from here, I guess?
So looking at the letter, I thought there's a request for a copy of financial estimates for the Hub Village Office and Fire Hall.
Yep.
There's a request that the mayor and council explain the plan that's going to for the fire hall. And I don't think we can do that yet because we haven't even designed it yet, right? We haven't even put it out to an architect. So for the fire hall. And then another request, the third request was timeline for the fire, search and rescue. Well, I think that's supposed to be emergency services operations. So there is the specific requests in the letter, right? So copy of the financial estimates, how the RFP is going to work for the fire hall, timeline for the fire hall, and a request to hold a meeting was basically the 4 requests. And I put a lot of thought into this myself, and I thought, well, some of it we can provide in a letter, but we don't have all of the information yet. So once we get the information, we'll be able to provide it. For example, for the financial estimates for those buildings, right? I don't think having a meeting at this point until we get information that we can share. So I guess what I'm thinking is, maybe I make a motion that we write a letter in response to say that we would consider holding a meeting once we have the information, and that we will share the information once we receive it. I don't know what else to do at this point in response to this letter, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I totally agree. A letter, of course, to respond would be appropriate. However, I'm going back to my original question because it would feed into your response is when can we expect this?
Yeah, and I don't know that we need to discuss that right now because what we're discussing is the correspondence letter that's coming. Yeah.
Mayor O'Connor, can I just jump in and just mention that one of the things that we're working on to move in the direction of being able to provide that information, particularly with the community hub, is bringing the pack together to talk about, what kind of business model would make sense for it, who's going to be involved, who's part of running the facility, who's, potentially a customer of the facility, those types of things. So I think that's the next step for the hub is to try to bring, it's being designed and was envisioned originally as a broad community facility. So try to bring the broad community in to talk about those kinds of things. Until we have an opportunity to get that group together, and we've got some dates out there, we're waiting for a response to see if people can meet. I think that's a really important next step is to try to understand how they want to be involved.
Yeah. And that you're right. And it's not a quick process, but that's the start of the process. Others' thoughts? Councillor Lightfoot.
I think a community discussion would be really good. Perhaps there's innovative approaches to how we can bring in revenue. I mean, it's definitely a challenge. It's definitely an issue for a lot of people that it won't be sustainable. So I would like the community to put on their thinking caps and think, how can we make it sustainable? What kind of things do we want to have in there? Is it, do we want to rent it for weddings? Do we want to rent it for dance class? Do we want to have, theater groups? Think big. I was telling someone a while ago, I used to have a button and I looked for it today, but I couldn't find it. And it said, if you have it in you to dream, you have it in you to succeed. And I think that that's what we're hoping to have happen. We want this community to grow. We don't want to stay with 75 residents forever. We want it to be an attractive, vibrant, healthy community where we can interact, and there's a lot of smart people, and maybe the Red Cross is someone we need to approach for swimming lessons, or collectively there's a lot of thought out there, and I hope people direct it in a positive way to see how they can generate revenue. It's very easy to see how things can fail sometimes.
Back to the letter.
This
letter.
It is one of the requests in the letter that I was thinking about. too.
Yeah.
I'll just speak to that
Yeah.
part of it, that there seems to be a hesitation to hold a meeting with the Village of Lytton taxpayers, and I'm not quite sure why we're hesitant to do that, because like you say, I'm good. Like I can, it's one of those things that it can go crazy, and you can get Zoom bombers, so you can never know. But if you don't do it, you don't know. So there is that about it. So I would support at least following up and seeing what that could look like, how we could do that, what would be appropriate. But I'm also thinking to not sure. Yeah, she's kind of lumped everything in together here, right? So I'm not sure about that. Like, if the fire hall, as we've all got opinions about the fire hall, but we're not experts about the fire hall. And I would really hesitate to have this open, let's all build the fire hall together and kind of go, oh, where did we end up here now? But there's probably still some good ideas that could come out there as well. Like the input that happened on Labor Day weekend, with people having the opportunity to write a note and stick it on something and have their say. That was a village office opportunity to say something about it. So think there's different ways of doing things. So I definitely appreciate the request, and I think that we should seriously consider how we might be able to do that in a timely manner, not leaving it off until forever, but addressing the Urquhart's concerns in some ways at least.
I agree with you. I just don't want to have a meeting and make up numbers that we don't have,
Yeah.
Absolutely. We need to, have the numbers before we can present them. If we want to look at some other kind of a community meeting, that's something we can discuss later. Yeah, right now.
We heard what you said, though. I mean, we may not have all the numbers, but if we are assured of some revenue, then we can say, if that was part of the pie, this is what we need to find.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not as overwhelming if you know that some of it has been secured.
Yeah.
And it's just more doable.
Okay, so I did put a motion. Did I put a motion for it? Did I have a seconder?
You didn't have a seconder.
So write a letter.
Write a letter.
Thank you, Councillor Toss. Other comments? Yeah.
Just in favor of what Councillor McCann and Councillor Lightfoot have reiterated, that a community meeting is definitely the way to go, because people are not feeling heard. That's what I'm hearing, regardless of how we see it. The community doesn't see it that way. So I don't think we should be scared of our community. And even if we don't have all the numbers, like Councillor Lightfoot has said, there might be some really good ideas coming from the community, or ways that we can save money or make money. But I don't think we should delay in having it, because the community is getting more and more anxious the longer. And we're going to get more petitions. We're going to get more anger. We're going to get media. We need to address this.
Okay, so the question, all those in favor? Carried. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So verbal reports. Here's my herbal report. Here it is.
You got a few papers there tonight.
Yeah, got a mess here. All right. So on March the 4th, I met with Minister Parmar regarding both the letter that I sent on behalf of the village and the SILGA resolution that we put forward. When I met with him, I did reiterate the village's concerns, and I was assured that there is going to be more opportunities for input and consultation with municipalities in the next while. March 5th, the following day, I attended a TNRD regular board meeting as well as a cybersecurity workshop for the board. It definitely increased my knowledge of, especially recognizing phishing emails. It was very well done. Because of course we know so many, it's quite concerning, right? The number that have been coming through. One piece of advice they gave was that if anything seems off, contact the sender directly via phone call to confirm that they're the ones that actually sent the email. On March 6th, I had a short meeting along with Councillor McCann with our MP Frank Caputo. We discussed a number of things, including the permanent location for the post office, Pacifican ending its program at the end of the month, the letter that was sent to Minister Robertson regarding the Pacifican and not receiving a response yet, as well as a few other topics. On March 7th, I attended our MLA Tony Luck's office opening in Merritt. I always find these kind of events are good opportunities for connecting with neighboring communities. I had conversations with my friend Victor Smith, the mayor of Hope, as well as councillors from Merritt and other business people in the area as well. It was actually really nice. March 9th, I attended a Gold Country monthly meeting. That was yesterday, wasn't it? And this morning, I've been invited to Shmamit School's environmental studies class, and they had excellent questions about the village and how we're addressing a variety of issues, particularly environmental issues. And I was really impressed. It was a senior class that I was visiting with. It was sort of cool. But I think the highlights of the last 2 weeks have been attending the OCP update themed sessions here at the hall. I've been very impressed with the turnout and the engagement from the people who attended the meetings. They were people from the village, from the TNRD residents, and of course from our First Nation communities as well. So I want to give a thanks to Carolyn and the OCP team. I am disappointed that I'll have to miss tomorrow evening's session. That's my report. And now I'll move on to Councillor Toss.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I'm looking at my calendar here at all of I won't reiterate, it's boring, but there was a ton of meetings between our council of the whole and I personally had meetings with Pacifican and the OCP and there's just like meeting after meeting after meeting last week. We'll get into it. But as far as my report to council goes, I do really hope that our priorities are to the taxpayer. And so I'm really looking forward to aligning with taxpayers' concerns as we go forward, because I'm hearing a lot of disgruntled people in our community that do not feel like they're having their say as to how their property tax dollars are being spent. And I had a community member come to me today, extremely concerned that her taxes were going up and she may not be able to maintain her home if her taxes go up anymore. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, and it keeps me up at night. So that's my report.
Thank you, Councillor McCann.
Yeah, lots of things to do for sure. The community operation meetings and hub open house and culture camp planning meeting with N7 staff. CP housing discussion, the Spentland Park project task force, a couple of coffees with the mayor, committee of the whole, OCP parks and trails, food security and agriculture, and informal check-in with MP Frank Caputo. That was my little meeting list. And my comments are thank you to the official community plan organizing team. Absolutely. Every session that I have attended has engaged community members in thoughtful discussions in each topic. positive tone of the sessions is very encouraging as we move forward with this process. I hope taking us to a meaningful and useful community plan for the village to use as a basis for future development. I look forward to the final 2 sessions in this series and then as well to participating in the creation of the plan as it evolves. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Councillor Michelle.
Nothing to add.
Councillor Lightfoot.
Not a lot to report. Like Councillor Toss, there was a lot of OCP meetings and committee of the whole meeting, and I attended a couple of coffees. I'm trying to wean myself off what my husband calls doom scrolling, looking at the condition of the world. But I have to admit that, when you do a SWOT analysis, external factors do impact us. And so I'm hoping that increased gas costs won't impact the project estimates that we have at this time. But I do know that it'll impact all of us, whether it's through gas or groceries. And so I understand that there may be harder times ahead of us, but I'll try to keep off that doom scrolling as much as possible.
Thank you. All right, so we've already covered item number 11, so we'll move on to 12, which means we're going to be moving into closed meetings. So can we please have a motion to move in so we can discuss matters related to community charter sections 91A, E, and J.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor McCann, seconded Councillor Toss. All those in favor? Carried. And we will now I'll turn it back over to Corporate Officer Storoshenko. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Connor. So that concludes the public portion of the regular council meeting for March 10th. We ask that members of the public and staff exit the meeting as council proceeds to close. Thank you for joining us, and council, I invite you to take a short recess while I prepare the meeting to close.